How cold will it get? How long will it last? And just how much snow am I going to pick up at my house? Well, that's what everybody wants to know, and I'm glad you asked as well, because I'm going to break it down like a fraction for you, friends. We've got a big show today, including look at the long range, and we could be in the midst of one of the biggest space weather events of 2025. We're going to look at all of that, more coming up right now on Cold Rain's Weather World. Man, I don't know about you, but I sure am excited to be talking about winter yet again, and I'm glad to be talking about it so early. I love winter. It's my favorite season in terms of weather. Some of the most interesting weather happens in the winter, and I know some people like it warm, but I'm going to be rooting against you big time this winter, folks, and I think we're in store for a good winter in parts of the east this year, especially the southeast where I live. I think we're going to pick up some snow. We'll talk more about that another time, but right now we have got a big Arctic blast to contend with. For early on in the season, it's going to be anomalously cold, and some snow is coming with it. I'm going to break all of that down for you. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, hit the subscribe button right down below. Give the content a like if you like it, and certainly leave a comment. If you've got a question or anything I can be in prayer about, please put it in the comment section, and I will make sure and pray over that. Continue to pray for me and my family as well. Thank you for all the support. Right now, we're going to take a look at this big Arctic blast coming in. Check this out. We're going to maybe geek out a little bit today too, show you a couple of other things that I don't normally get into, but look at this. These are 850 millibar temperatures, about a mile up off the ground, and this map shows you how much below or above normal they are. Purples are below normal and reds are above normal. The deeper the colors, the more below or above it is, and I'll tell you kind of how this stacks out. But as we go on in towards Saturday night, heading in towards Sunday morning, you can see this big blast of Arctic air just surging out of Canada. Now this is 850 millibars. That's what? About a mile up off the ground. If you've been watching this show, you know that to be true. And here we come, and we get into Sunday afternoon, and look at the leading edge of this. You're probably fixated on this purple area. That's the maximum intensity of the cold air, but the leading edge of it's back here where the whites turn into blues. And you can see that cold front swinging through. You got a little swirl in these lines up here. There's a low pressure system, but along behind that is a cold front. And that cold front will be blasting through the Midwest and plains, southern plains, the Mississippi Valley on the day during the day Sunday. So cold advection will be happening. That will surge on in toward the southeast overnight. You can see kind of where that front will be pushing in the evening hours. Winds will be picking up. Cold air will be coming in. And here comes the scale-breaking purple colors. Look at this. Off the chart down here, if you can even see that. 1920. This is minus 20. This is not minus 20 in terms of temperature. It's minus 20 in terms of departure from normal. 20 degrees below normal, in other words. Look at that. That is very cold about a mile off the surface, and that will translate to very cold temperatures for this time of year at the surface. And it swings on through during the day Monday into Monday evening and overnight Monday into the southeast, and that's where the maximum intensity will become in the southeast. Tuesday, early Tuesday morning, and it will diminish through the day on Tuesday, sort of moderate a bit and push on out. So it will be a really 1 to 2 day, basically a 2-day cold punch, and then we're back to getting in toward near normal again, although this is the European model and it keeps some cold anomalies to the north and to the east as we go on out through time. And we'll look at the long range pattern a little bit more in a minute. What does that mean in terms of actual temperatures at the surface? Well, we'll take a look at this. So Sunday, well, this is not Sunday, this is Sunday if you're in Zulu, or Zulu time, Greenwich Mean Time, but this is Saturday evening. It's about 7 o'clock, and watch what happens up in the Midwest. You see, we get kind of normally cooling off here into the 40s and the 50s through much of the eastern portion of the country. And I'm not trying to leave you folks out in the west. There's just nothing going on out there. You're getting a break from all those systems kind of punching in, bringing you a lot of rain lately. Well, you're getting a break from that this weekend, and temperatures are going to moderate out there, so not much going on. All the actions in the east. And look at this, as we get on in towards Sunday morning, here comes that cold front blasting through. Temperatures are in the 40s out here in the Tennessee Valley, and things moderate a little bit through the day, but you got cold advection ongoing up here in the Midwest and back in toward the upper Mississippi Valley. Look down here in the southeast, very warm ahead of that cold front. Temperatures surging up on those southerly winds. But look at this cold front just blasting through here, the Midwest, the Mississippi Valley. As we get on in through the nighttime hours, you can see the cold advection just springing that cold air in. again. There it comes. And as we get on in toward a Monday afternoon, we're looking at highs in the 40s for potentially the western half of Virginia, the western half of North Carolina, South Carolina, up here into Georgia, Alabama, back into Mississippi, and maybe highs not even getting out of the 30s in some parts of the Tennessee Valley, in the 20s back into parts of the Great Lakes region and Midwest. And then that cold air advection continues through the evening hours. Monday night, we're getting down into the 20s, into the west here and back into the Tennessee Valley and mid-20s. So it's going to be a hard freeze. You say, well, Jason, all this cold air is coming into the southeast. Why are temperatures only in the 30s? Well, we've got wind, and wind keeps temperatures up, keeps the atmosphere mixed over the lowest layer of the atmosphere. And so warm, those temperatures sort of mix out instead of allowing radiational cooling to maximize the temperatures. But you got cold air advection. We'll see temperatures get down below freezing for much of the Carolinas, at least the western Carolinas into Virginia, and parts of the foothills are going to be in the 20s more than likely, and then 20s back into the Great Lakes for sure. Wouldn't even rule out a couple of spots getting down to near 20, and then up in the northeast, as things kind of push through up there, you'll be in the freezing category, and certainly 30s and upper 20s for lows up there. And then as we get on in toward Tuesday afternoon, look for highs in the 40s for a good chunk of the southeast. Boy, oh boy, Florida, you're even getting in on some of this action too. It's going to be chilly down there. I've spent a long time talking about these temperatures because everybody wants to know what the temperatures are actually going to be. So we're looking at widespread freezing conditions for parts of the southeast overnight as we get into Sunday night and into Monday night or Tuesday morning. And then we warm up, but we're not going to warm up a whole lot through the day on Tuesday. And then as we get on in toward Wednesday, get more freezing conditions here in the foothills and the mountains up into the northeast. But then as we get on in toward Wednesday afternoon, look at that. Moderation takes place. We start to warm up a bit, except for the northeast. So that's kind of a quick hitting cool shot. If we take a look at the winds associated with that, these are wind gusts, and you can kind of see this. This is Saturday afternoon into the evening hours. Kind of see where the leading edge of that wind is right here. This is where the front is. It's coming through, and it will approach the southeast and just continue to move south and east, and then we'll pick up those winds, and more energy in the mid-levels will bring more wind at the surface in terms of wind gusts. And so you'll see those wind gusts into the 20s, the 30s here as we get into parts of the Tennessee Valley, Mississippi River Valley. Maybe see some gusts approaching 40 miles per hour through the morning hours on Monday, and that'll expand eastward and south as we go on through Monday afternoon. So could see some rather gusty conditions Monday, and then that just keeps on going into Tuesday, and then here comes another front as we go on through Tuesday into Wednesday. But things will kind of quiet down in the southeast at least a little bit as we get into Tuesday. Those winds will keep those temperatures up. Here's the big trough anomaly. I've already pulled this way ahead. Let's go back. Check this out. So the European really does a good job illustrating how deep this trough can get. You can see this energy. This is energy in the jet stream, or not really the jet stream, but it's the mid-level energy map, vorticity map. You see this big ridge going up out west, leaving a big trough, leading to a big trough in the east. And all these colors here are vortmaxes. These are pockets of energy in the mid-levels, and they help to carve out a trough. So you get this leading edge that comes through, brings energy through, and some showers and some rain and some snow showers behind this that will help to cool off much of the atmosphere. And then you get this big consolidated vortmax that comes through the Tennessee Valley and swings through the North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia as we get on in toward Monday evening. Could squeeze out a few snow showers, definitely in the higher elevations here in the southern Alps. Look for some snow. We're going to see some snow to the tune of an inch or two probably, but out in the Piedmont sections of North Carolina, the European's been showing off and on some snow showers mixing maybe with some rain. I kind of think that's a little bit ambitious. Probably if anything like that happens, it'll be confined to Virginia and points north, but certainly the lake effect snow machine will be cranking up. But you can see how that sort of energy holds together, swings through. The GFX actually, and some of the other models, kind of break that energy apart, swings some through the Great Lakes and swings more through the southeast, as opposed to keeping it consolidated like this. That matters a little bit because it would lessen the chances of snow showers, and it might keep the temperatures just a little bit warmer than what I'm showing you here. So a couple of different scenarios that could play out. The European usually does a pretty good job with energy and its forecasting of energy, so we'll go with that for now, and then things kind of calm down a bit. Now, Moisture in the mid-level is going to be a starve, so we're not looking for heavy precipitation really along much of the East Coast. We're not looking for a wound-up storm system. This is kind of a cold front with a leading storm system moving through the Northeast. And here's the mid-level mid-level humidity map at about 700 millibars. You start to get up into the upper parts of the troposphere, but this is where the moisture is, and you can see the moisture in the purples. That's where we're most saturated, but really there's just pockets of it as opposed to a big mass of moisture coming in off the Atlantic. This thing is bringing moisture with it, but you can see how a lot of dry air is mixed in here as well. So here comes the vortmax through overnight Monday. Not a lot of moisture, maybe just enough to wring out a few snow showers here in the Piedmont, but certainly another round of it and a couple more rounds of energy come through. But the bulk of the moisture is up here where rain and snow will fall up in Canada and then through the Northeast and the Great Lakes as well. How much snow are we talking about? Well, here's what the European shows. It brings that lead system through Sunday. There it goes, bringing some rain up into your area. You guys are going to have a rainy Sunday up there in the Northeast, and showers back into the Great Lakes with snow as that trough really starts to pull in. You're going to have these winds swing around out of the north. The lakes are warm. Cold air going over that will create some snow in the downwind portion of the lakes, and you'll see that pick up as we go through time. Here comes the vortmax Sunday and Monday evening, and a little bit of shower response here in the Piedmont sections, the coastal plain of North Carolina and Virginia, and you get a little jailbreak, a little snow shower activity breaking containment off the mountains, but look for mountain snows from Asheville up to Boone, back into up here into West Virginia, into some of these mountains, back even in toward Pittsburgh could see some snow out of this thing. And by the time we get into Monday and the overnight hours toward Tuesday morning, a lot of that activity's moving off, but wouldn't be surprised Virginia, Piedmont sections of Virginia, to pick up a little bit of snow out of this thing. As far as total precipitation amounts go, not really looking for a lot. The lion's share of it's up here in the Great Lakes area. You can see maybe up to an inch or so in the New England and interior Northeast, northern Northeast. Some of that will be in the form of snow, and you can see the biggest threat for snow is downwind of the Great Lakes, where obviously cool air working across those lakes can bring you some snow this time of year when temperatures get cold, and up here in the upstate of New York, and then over in some of the higher terrain up here in the Northeast, look for some maybe 2 to 4 inch snow amount, something like that, and then across, of course, 1 to 2 inches maybe up and down the southern Appalachians. And look at that. 1 inch here in Virginia, probably not going to happen up toward Roanoke. I doubt you'll get that much, but you could see a flake or two, certainly not out of the question. We'll continue to watch that as we go on out in time. That's kind of the synopsis of the big Arctic outbreak. Different models have different opinions on what happens after this. The GFS is kind of resolute in wanting to bring another big cold blast in while the Euro wants to warm us up. So we'll have to see what happens there. But right now I've got your weather IQ question. Then we're going to take a look at the just general weekend forecast for the rest of the nation, and a quick look at the long range, and wrap up with space weather coming right up. So stay tuned. All right, got your weather IQ question. It's similar to the last time we did this. So let's see what you can gather, guess, or surmise based on the question and answer set. Here it is. When hail is present, particularly large hail present in a thunderstorm, what color generally does the lightning appear to be as? Boy, I really just butchered that, didn't I? What color does lightning appear to be when hail is present in a thunderstorm? That's probably a better way to ask this. Is it yellow, white, green, or red? If you know the answer, type it down in the comment section. If you don't know it, just wait till the end of the show and I'll butcher the question again, but I'll definitely give you the right answer and tell you why. So, all right, that's that. Now we're going to get into the forecast for the weekend, take a quick look at the long range. We'll start here by taking a quick look at the alert map, and you can see it is largely devoid of activity. You have a few wind alerts up here in the plains for some windy conditions, of course. That's why they're wind alerts. And then frost advisories in the Piedmont, coastal plain, North Carolina, Virginia, and the Delmarva region for potential for some frost overnight with temperatures in the mid-30s out there. But the bigger story is going to be thunderstorms potentially. That could be a problem tomorrow into Saturday. We've got a slight risk here in portions of middle Tennessee and middle Kentucky, with a marginal risk around that for isolated severe thunderstorms. Could see a tornado or two. There's enough shear in the atmosphere to potentially organize a cluster or line segment or even a supercell or two that could spin up a tornado. Nothing big, no reason to panic about it, but just stay weather aware as you go through the day tomorrow. See a broken line of storms move through. Wind could be a problem. Hail's a small risk, a little bit bigger risk where lapse rates are better up here in Middle Tennessee and Kentucky. That is tomorrow. And then as we go out through Saturday, that threat will shift from western South Carolina to northern Georgia, the northern 2/3 of Alabama, Mississippi, and over here into Louisiana and southern Arkansas as well. So isolated storms look to be the most prominent or the best bet as it looks now. Let's go back here. There's a low pressure system as we get on in toward tomorrow morning. Going to bring some rain up through the Great Lakes area. Line of rain will move into parts of New England and the northeast, with even a little bit of snow on the northern edge of that, particularly along the border counties as we get on in through the day Friday and Saturday. And there's that line of thunderstorms producing potentially some severe weather that will progress to the east, kind of break apart as it does so as we get on in towards Saturday morning. Cloudy and drizzly up here in the northeast with another system moving in. This is what is going to help really bring in the cold air out of Canada. As that ridge goes up out west, that trough goes down in the east, and here comes that low pressure, and that will move on through as we get into Sunday, kind of wind up a bit here in the lakes, spin those winds around out of Canada. Bam, we got lake effect snow to talk about, and there goes that low pressure kind of off the coast, kind of getting its act together a little bit, bring some rain and even heavy rain in portions of New England, and there comes the trough as we get on in through Sunday night. We've already taken a look at that, so no need to beat a dead horse there. However, we will take a look at temperatures over the next couple of days. Highs in the 30s in the Midwest and northern plains up here as we get on into portions of the northern plains as we get on in toward tomorrow, with 40s below that and 70s even sneaking in here to parts of the Mississippi Valley, and 80s even approaching 90 down here in South Texas. Look at that. It's going to be warm in the south, but that is going to be short-lived as this front comes in, and you can see it start to push in on Saturday with highs in the 20s up here in the northern plains in the Midwest, with quickly transitioning to 50s, then 60s in the yellow, and 70s and 80s in the oranges and reds. And look at this, that stuff gets squished down out of the states into the Gulf. All but Florida and the desert Southwest are basking in cool air. You guys are basking in warm air, but here comes that cold punch as we get into Sunday, with 30s breaking out for much of the Midwest, and then highs in the 40s. And then we got one more day of that, and then boom, everybody over here in the east is starting to get on the cool air action with a little bit of return flow out west. Taking a look down the road just a little bit, want to give you an idea. This is the jet stream, and then we'll wrap this up. But look at this jet stream. This is a European model jet, and we're going to run this out Friday into Saturday into Sunday, and there goes that big ridge up, sending all of that Arctic air down into the southeast. This is an energetic jet, folks. So I've told you about this a lot. When you see that kind of flat jet goes from west to east, there ain't a lot going on. But when you get this big kind of U shape like this that's sharp, you oftentimes have a big storm. Fortunately, we don't, because the thing is just a little bit too progressive. But we could see a big storm out of one of these as we get on into the winter. But show you that, just show you that we have some activity in the jet. We get on out toward mid next week, another ridge going up, more energy, more bright colors, more energy back here in the southwest portion of the country coming on to the west coast. More energy here in the northern sections of the northeast, and then just energy just continues to come in. And the only takeaway from this is we don't need to worry about the details yet, but look at this. We've got kind of a split flow we end up with. This is an active pattern. It's not going to be static. We're going to see warm shots, cold shots, warm shots, and could see eventually just sort of a moderation of a pattern, but we've still got all of this energy bringing storm system after storm system into the United States. So it's not going to be one of those dull, nothing going on kind of patterns. We're going to have rain, we're going to have snow to talk about, we're going to have cold weather, and we're going to have some warm-ups as well. It is November, it is fall, it's dynamic, and here's what the European ensemble mean actually shows as we go on out in time. Look at that big trough in the east. It breaks the color scale almost. Starts to get gray. That's off the scale, folks. And then we have a big ridging continuing to hold on up here in toward and around Greenland, kind of trapping this vortex in. That would keep us locked into a cooler pattern in the east for about the next 7, 8, 9 days, and then as we get on in toward day 9 and 10, we see some migration of the pattern to a general trough in the west and a ridge in the east, but it's sort of a flat flow, and that's what happens. You have all these members, it sort of flattens out over time. So that's what the pattern looks like, folks, and that's what we've got going on for the weather. Now we're going to take a look at space weather, because there's some stuff and it's going on up there big time. Check out this KP. We made it to G3. That is solar storm conditions level 3 out of 5. Look at this. We had one go up into the near 7 in terms of the index over here. So that is impressive to say the least. There is the flux chart. We haven't seen any more solar flare since this one that happened yesterday. Nothing to be too concerned about. This one made it almost to X class, but the sunspot is still there that's causing us all the trouble. There's the sun. Let's put this in motion. You don't get a lot of motion out of this particular view. Coronal hole's turning away, so we're getting the benefits of that coronal hole stream coming at us right now. That's helping to keep us in geomagnetic storm conditions, or put us there potentially. Look at all these bright spots. You see these bright spots are sunspots. Kind of ironic, but they are sunspots. They're bright, and they eventually, when they shoot off flares, you can actually see it on this image. But just some filaments erupting and some umbra kind of moving around here, and that's what you've got going on with this particular image here. If we take a look at the coronagraph, here's the coronagraph. It shows things coming off. Look at that. That's a CME. All right. So you see kind of the main focus of the CMEs up here to the north and kind of away from Earth. But when you get this halo effect, and it'll come back around again, watch that halo. See, kind of like that, kind of comes off on all sides. Portion of that plasma is coming toward us. And that's not great for the magnetosphere, especially if it's really, really big. That one, fortunately, wasn't huge, but it was big enough to send energy our way, and it will be impacting the magnetosphere in a day or so. And additional, we've got basically 2 CMEs coming at us right now in addition to that coronal hole stream. And so I've seen some spikes in the density. Density is one of those things that matters a great deal in terms of how big the solar storm can get. Density, you would want to see density up high if you want to see a big solar storm. And then BZ direction is 2.66 to the north. When this goes south and you can see it dip into the red, that's when you get the big auroras and you get disruptions to the magnetosphere, and that's not good. So fortunately, we're not in geomagnetic storm conditions right this minute, but we're going to be as those CMEs approach, and those sunspots are still incredibly complex, and it is not yet center disk. So we've got a couple more days to worry about this, and other ones shooting off solar flares are on their way in. And there it is. There's that big one. Look at that magnetic complexity with positive and negative charges. It's very big, it's ugly, and it is just on its way. So we've got a lot to watch there. I'll keep you posted, but could see some good aurora viewing soon, and maybe some communication disruptions too, just depending on how all of this comes together. But it's going to be a busy several days. Got a lot of sunspots to go, and anytime they could release a big solar flare with a CME. So we'll keep our fingers crossed it ain't too big, because that would not be good, and we don't need to get into that today. But again, would not be great. So anyway, we'll wrap things up with the answer to today's IQ question. So here it is. What color is lightning generally? How does it appear when hail is present in a thunderstorm? Next time I'll write that question better. Yellow, white, green, or red? And the answer is green. Ice crystals and water droplets scatter the light and filter out some of those reds and yellows, leaving it with that green and sometimes purple look. And that's why a lot of times when you have these big severe thunderstorms and tornadoes and all of that, you see kind of a green sky. It's just, a lot of times that's because the light that's coming through is being refracted and scattered because you've got big hailstones there and ice crystals and all that. So that's one of those telltale signs. If you see a big green kind of sky, look for hail pretty soon. All right, so that's that. And then the only other thing I wanted to just point out is that on this day, way back in 1860, Abraham Lincoln became the 16th president of the United States without carrying a single southern state, as you would imagine. His victory led directly to the secession of several southern states, which led to the Civil War, which led to him passing or issuing the Emancipation Proclamation, declaring that everybody would be free. Eventually, the Civil War ended, and that is that. And that is a good note on which to end the show, folks. I hope you have enjoyed yourselves today. I've enjoyed being with you. Thank you for being with me. And I will have another episode of Cold Rain's Weather World in the morning, and it'll be a lot earlier than today's show for sure. Anyway, thank you for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. Take care, and God bless.